Welcome to Trading Nation. I'm Brian Sullivan. Pleased to be joined today by phone by Paul Hickey, co-founder of Bespoke Investment Group. And Paul, thanks very much for joining us. Listen, you always put out really interesting stuff. And of course, technology and its little sell-off getting all the attention. I guess the concern of investors is, will this sort of smaller sell-off become a bigger one, or is it just going to bounce back? You did a big study into prior reversals off of 52-week highs historically. What did you find?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. So, basically, I mean, last Friday seems like a pretty momentous event, and, some people, it's tempting to call it a turning point in the market, but looking back at these periods, they're not as rare as you might think. There's been 23 other periods since the late 80s where the Nasdaq has hit an intraday 52-week high and then finished the day down 1% or more from its prior close. The most recent one was actually back in March, and the stocks pretty much bounced back nicely from there. But looking at all these periods, there's no clear-cut trend. You tend to see maybe some short-term biasness to the weak side, but not too much. But overall, it's usually forgotten about over the intermediate term here. And what's interesting to note also is that even in the periods where the S&P was held up better than the Nasdaq, so what we saw Friday, whereas the S&P held up very well, and there's been fewer occurrences where that has happened, but it's the same underlying trend going forward. The period where you can tend to see the highest likelihood of weakness is over the following week, but then a month later you're getting back to your historical trends. I think another thing to keep in mind is that when this occurred on late afternoon on a Friday, and we'd place this much weight onto what happens in the market late afternoon on a summer Friday when it's 90 degrees than you would on conversations in a bar, at last call. It tends to have it tends to be short term maybe, but over the long term, no one ever even remembers it.
But are you saying it's more common then than we think?
I don't think it's. I mean, it's not necessarily common, but it hasn't been the mark of a major turning point in prior instances. I mean, we've had them on average about almost a little more than once a year. You've seen it on average, but so I mean, I don't think you want to put too much weight onto that, and you want to see how the follow through is. And today is another weak day, but I don't think we're seeing too much. We're not seeing it in even larger gains than larger declines than Friday. So overall the Nasdaq was very extended coming into the week last week. It was trading above the upper end of its uptrend channel that we've been tracking over the last year. So back in August of 2016, and then again in March, if you do that trend line, it was at levels where the rally sort of stalled out in the short term. So, I think it's good to see some consolidation. And markets, it's a two-way street. So they go up and they go down. And when they just go up and up and up, that's not a market. That's just winning.
Yeah, and I guess the bigger concern maybe is not just about these stocks. Everybody's piling into these names. We know all the stats. I've written about my concern about how maybe these names, which brought us up, will bring down the whole market. Any take on how this sell-off in those names might impact the broader market, if at all?
Well, so that's
maybe it'll help it because the rotation will go into other stocks.
Yes, so other stocks held up well. Breadth was actually positive on Friday in the S&P 500. But all this talk about the rally this year is being driven by the 5 largest stocks in the S&P 500, those 5 tech stocks. The cumulative AD line was hitting new highs along with the market. So that doesn't tell us that, those stocks are very large and they've had big gains, but underneath, other stocks have been going along for the rally as well. So it's what we saw on Friday. The other stocks continued to hold up well, whereas the largest stocks really got hit hard. But and what you saw was more of like a rotation out. Nearly the same amount of money that was lost in the tech sector was gained in the other sector. So it's encouraging to see a rotation and not just a flat-out exit from the market.
Okay, Paul Hickey with some words of consolation, maybe making people feel better. Paul Hickey, we appreciate your time as always, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me.
Folks, thank you for watching Trading Nation. As always, I'm Brian Sullivan. We'll see you again. Take care.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.